So, all right, guys, we got to get this one right. On three, we're going to say, welcome back to Extraordinary Thoughts for on their mind. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to our show. Mine.
And we back.
That'll work right there.
Yeah.
And we back. And we
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
back. And we back. And we
Y'all did y'all best.
Thank God.
What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thickman, and welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Thoughts for the Ordinary Mind. So happy Fridays, everybody. I'm really hoping that everybody's Friday was really, their week was successful, And I really say that because my week was successful. It was. Because this is the first official week where I haven't smoked a cigarette. I haven't smoked a cigarette all week. And for those who aren't tracking the journey, last week I said that I was going to quit smoking. And I said that I was going to quit smoking and say that this was going to be my last pack. Now, I done tried to quit smoking New Year's resolutions. I've tried to quit smoking, just spur of the moments. I've tried to quit smoking on drives, like cross-country drives, because I couldn't smoke in the car. I've tried to quit smoking on so many occasions. But this is the first time where I've just legitimately have not smoked a cigarette all week. And I'm talking about cold turkey because one thing I wanted to do, and I say one thing I wanted to do was I didn't want to replace one habit with another habit. You see what I'm saying? You hear this, somebody says, I want to quit smoking, but then they start vaping. They don't want to quit smoking. They want to quit smoking, so they start dipping. I didn't want to do that. So when I say that it's definitely been hard, it has been hard, but the benefits, when I tell you my breathing is different, I'm working out and normally I gotta stop, get my breath, I'm out of breath. I was able to finish workouts, push myself. And honestly, it just kind of opened my eyes because I was just thinking to myself damn, you've been holding yourself back for this long? You've been holding yourself back this long? And, day six was really the cherry on top of my journey towards this because I could finally smell smoke on somebody after 10 years. 10 years I have not been able, when somebody goes to a smoke pit or goes outside to smoke a cigarette and everybody's like, ugh, who smoked a cigarette? Ugh, you stink. Change your clothes, change your skin, go wash your hands. I really want to go on record and just say, we hate that. Okay, I get it. You don't like the smell of cigarettes. Do me a favor real quick. Go somewhere else. I don't know what to tell you, but we as smokers can't stand when y'all do that. And I bet y'all can't stand when we go smoke a cigarette and we come back and we smell. For the first time, I could smell it though. They went and smoked a cigarette. They came back. And I could finally smell what everybody else had been smelling. And it was crazy because I've never smelled that. And I've been smoking for 10 years. So with that being said, just like Friday and the Friday before that and the Friday before that and the Friday before that, this ordinary podcaster asked for extraordinary thoughts and received so many. And I just really want to go on the record and just say that Wildcard Fridays is one of my favorite things because it allows me to be able to connect with the listeners. So I appreciate y'all extraordinary thoughts that y'all always give me. And please do not stop to, continue to keep doing that because I love doing that. We've been doing this since the podcast has started. And one thing that I am going to do is stop posting so much in my stories on Wildcard Fridays. Because, we're going through so many things, talking about so many random things. And then boom, here's a Wildcard Friday. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. So today's episode is about habits. And I really wanted to talk about habits because one thing that we are as humans, we're creatures of habits. Now, although we live off of execution, it's our habits that determine the level of execution that we will have. And I say it in this manner right here, is that based off of the bad or good habits that you're going to have is going to determine the level of execution that you exhibit. So if you have good habits, you can expect your execution to be at an all-time high. But if you have bad habits, well, you guess what? Your execution levels will always be low. And when I say high or low execution, I'm talking about your ability to be able to move towards a goal. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have a hard time completing something or a hard time getting something started, that's probably because you have shitty habits. And habits, they can be anything, not just smoking. They can also be the way you listen, the way you speak, the way you act, your behaviors, hell, even your sleeping habits. So with that being said, one thing that I really want you to understand today is that your habits, our habits are a reflection of us. And in fact, these little things is what makes us actually unique. But based off of our habits, those bad habits, they can be distractions and they can greatly impact our path towards success. Your bad habits could be the reason why you're not successful. And your good habits can be the reason why you're moving towards that direction. But once again, if you got bad habits, it's probably delaying your road to success, your destination. So what is a habit? See, a habit is settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. It's regularly repeated behavior that requires little to no thought to learn. And let me rephrase that. I kind of jumbled my words up. It's a repeated behavior that requires little to no thought and it's learned. See, one thing that you need to understand is that habits are learned. We pick those up. What's so crazy about this is that I remember I had a conversation with a young man before. And this might sound a little mean, but he was a quitter. He was a quitter. Like every time times get hard and stuff of that nature, he would just back out. He'd try to find an easy way out or he'd just walk away from it. Like if things don't go his way, he quit. And I was like, where could he have learned that from? So I asked him, I said, "Do you ever play sports?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "So what did you do when things got hard?" He said, "I would just quit." So I was like, "All right, so you ain't learned it there. It came earlier." And I asked, I said, "Did you have both parents in the household?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Who left?" And he was like, "My dad." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's probably where it came from." And I looked at him and I said, but my father wasn't in my life either. And, we had that moment. But then I told him, I said, but that explains why you're a quitter. Your father walked out on you. And because your father walked out on you when times got hard, you learned that behavior from him. So every time something doesn't go your way, so when times get rough, when things just seem like they just not working out in your favor, you quit. And that sounds messed up, but to be honest with you, it just really just explains how habits are learned. We pick those up. We usually learn them from our family. We learn them from our friends. We learn them from our environments. And so crazy about that is that I always talk about, like, if you want to make a change for the better, you got to change 3 things. Change your habits, change your friends, change your environment. You change these 3 things, and I can assure you, one thing about them is that when you change one, all 3 have to change. And when you make one of these changes, you're moving towards either something good or something bad. You change your friends, you're going to change your habits, because you can't have the exact same habits with new friends because they have different activities. They have different habits themselves. You're going to change your environment because you're no longer hanging around those same people. You change your environment. You change your environment. Now you have to get new friends. Once again, new friends bring new habits. You change your habits. New habits, new friends means a new environment. Every time you change these things, one has to change. One changes and it causes everyone else to change. And this could be something good or this can be something bad. But I want you to understand that our habits have such a big impact in our lives. But the golden question always comes out. How long does it take to develop a habit? Now, I've read 21 days. I've read 66 days. But one thing that has been common across the board, and this is crazy because the same way that it takes to develop a habit is the same way that you can break it. And it's based off of the person, the circumstances, and their behaviors. Is going to determine how long it's going to take for you to either develop a habit and to break a habit. And when I say develop a habit, my mom and dad both smoked cigarettes. And I know what you're thinking, because they smoked caused me to smoke. Absolutely not. In fact, 18 years growing up in a household full of smokers, I did not want to smoke a cigarette. And I didn't want to smoke a cigarette because I saw them smoke and I hated that smell. So how did I end up smoking cigarettes? I joined the military. They were smoking. No, they weren't even smoking. They were dipping. And I think that's how I got into it, because they were dipping. Nobody around me was dipping. So they dip. I tried that. That led to me smoking. But once again, the circumstances were different. It wasn't just flat out cigarette smoke. Fast forward, now here I am trying to quit. But the same way that you develop a habit is the same way that it's going to be for you to break a habit. One thing that you need to understand is that habits are hard-coded within us. And when I say they're hard-coded within us, the thing about it is that once we develop that habit, whether that's 21 days or 66 days, it becomes saved in there. It's like a PlayStation 4 Xbox. It's saved data. And the only way to get rid of it is not to delete it, but you got to overwrite it. You can't delete it, but you got to be able to play that game and replace it with something else. That's why when you see somebody that quits smoking, they pick up like sunflower seeds. They pick up dipping. They pick up vaping. And it's been so hard for me because I really quit cold turkey. And when I say that when quitting cold turkey, the hard part about it is that you don't really miss the taste. You don't really miss that. It's the things that you used to do that are associated with it. Like when I would eat, right after I get done eating, I want to go smoke a cigarette. On my way to work, I want to go smoke a cigarette. When I'm driving, I want to smoke a cigarette. Those are the things you really miss. So I have to replace them with something else. Chewing gum, eating candy, X, Y, and Z type of things to like keep me from smoking a cigarette. Now, I know I keep utilizing smoking as like the main thing. And I know some people just don't smoke cigarettes. But please keep in mind that I talk about smoking so much because, one, that's the habit I'm trying to quit. Two, it's the most common habit for people mostly trying to break. But please understand that habits, it goes into the way you talk, your sleeping, just the little things that you do. It doesn't have to just be smoking. But with that being said, your habits and success, just like what I've mentioned, a lot of people are unsuccessful because of their bad habits. It ain't their friends. It ain't their environment. It's the bad habits that they exhibit that's holding them up from being successful. And a lot of people are successful because of these habits that they have. So your habits, and once again, that I really want people to understand, is a reflection of you. If somebody wants to be successful in their lives, their habits will be a direct reflection of their commitment. Your habits will be a direct reflection of you, and your commitment will show. So if you have shitty habits, I can already tell you right now, you're about to be pushing a boulder uphill, and that boulder gonna constantly keep falling down. And it ain't because the hill's at a slope. It ain't because the boulder is heavy. It's because one of your habits is to constantly keep taking a break. Every time something gets hard, you want to tap out or something of that nature. That's probably your habit. But let's talk about time management. See, time management, whatever your habit is, see, the thing is that it takes time to do. So, for example, when I would smoke a cigarette, I would be at work, I'd be typing away, but then I would get that urge to go smoke a cigarette. So now I got to get up, I got to stop working and go out and go smoke a cigarette real quick. I might be out there for 5, 10, 15 minutes. I remember I got tired of, like, maybe you don't want to smoke in your car. And I remember going through that phase. I didn't want to smoke in my car. So instead of smoking in my car, I would smoke outside of my car before I went to work. So now I have to wake up early to allot myself some time to smoke that cigarette and actually enjoy it. Because, God knows I can't walk and smoke. I can't run and smoke. That defeats the whole purpose of it. After eating, I would get up and go somewhere so I can smoke a cigarette and be away from everybody. What I'm trying to say is that your habit, it needs time. You need to, you set a certain time for you to be able to use that habit, to do that habit. So if you like to sleep in, you have piss poor sleeping habits, then you have already allotted the time. That's why you're always waking up late. If you smoke, you're going to make time for those habits. So if they're good or bad, you're going to fit them into your schedule. Or where your habits fit themselves into your schedule. Let me phrase it. You're going to create your schedule around your habits. There it is right there. So once again, based off of your habits, whether they're good or bad, it's going to have a major effect on your time management. Another thing that we need to realize is that our habits have a lot to do with the decisions that we make in our lives. If we have piss poor decisions, we're going to have piss poor habits. If we have good decisions, we're going to have good habits. But also they have long-term effects. Your good habits are going to pay off in the long run. Those days where you have developed a habit to wake up early. The days where you said that I'm going to be able to stop saying yes and start saying no when I need to, or to be able to make the changes necessary. You develop these good habits that are going to play out in the long run. Or you're me. And one of your habits is once again smoking. Now, 10 years, 20 years down the line, you probably, knock on wood, got lung cancer. You're dealing with all of these other problems. Or maybe it's not smoking. Maybe it's, once again, just piss poor things that you do. Piss poor decision making. Bad sleeping. Bad speaking. Bad listening. Bad work ethic. It pays off in the long run. And I really just can't stress this enough. But one thing that we need to understand, just like what I mentioned in the very beginning, is that your habits have a lot to do with your execution. So if you want to increase the execution, you want to move faster towards your goals, you need to change your habits. And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Stay tuned Mondays and Fridays. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, like the podcast, share the podcast, because the podcast was dedicated to helping you become a better version of yourself. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Meech Speaks. Once again, that is Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled M-E-E-C-H. Stay hungry, stay motivated. I'm out.